Welcome to Modern Musings, conversations with the maiden, mother, and crone, looking at ourselves and the world through the lens of the 21st century. Okay, welcome back. I'm Amber Jones, and I'm here with my co-host, Kristen Murray and Cindy Murray.
Hello.
Hello. So we have a kind of serious or whatever episode today. We're talking about women who are too much. And I just want to say that I know I'm too much.
I don't think there is
I
a
was
such
about to
thing
say
as
there
too
is
much.
no such thing as too much.
Yeah, but I mean, okay, so like conventionally, like antiquatedly, in the past, maybe I have been called.
Yeah, it is a derogatory comment.
Yeah. So we're just going to talk about this. And I know, now we're in 2025 and gender norms have changed, but have they?
I don't think they have changed.
I mean, I feel like, yes, people will say that things have changed, but in reality, things have not really changed.
No, they haven't.
Like, women are still treated a certain way.
Yeah, absolutely.
And women still have lower paying jobs than
Mm-hmm.
men. Yay, women can work, but like I feel like women still have to struggle to get ahead.
Women have to work harder at the same job
Yeah.
to get the same recognition. And they still don't get the same recognition. They still don't get the same level of pay for doing the exact same job as a man does.
Yeah, exactly.
And I was just listening to the radio, and they were talking about lawsuits against the I can't remember if it was the Dallas or the Fort Worth Police Department or the Department of Corrections or something. And they were talking about women corrective officers making, working at the jails, making. There's this lawsuit that they had because they were being discriminated against. They were not allowed to take weekends off, but men could.
Interesting.
Yes, and
yeah.
there was a whole thing about it, but it was this. They used this system to make sure that there were men working the shifts during the weekdays.
Mm-hmm.
But apparently, like most of the corrective officers were women, and so in order to make sure all the men worked on the weekdays, they had to give them weekends off. But the females, even though they might have more seniority than the males did, they were not allowed to take off. And yeah. So
crazy.
there's it's antiquated systems.
Mm-hmm.
And they're fighting it, and they're making changes, but it hasn't completely changed.
Well, I feel like in the past, at past jobs that I have, there have been instances where I have been a senior person at that job, and men have come in and started making more than me.
Yep.
And that is something that has been a struggle my entire life. When I was working years and years ago, when I was working at Dillard's even, they brought in, like I had the seniority in the department, and they brought in a guy who had never worked in retail before in his life and made him my boss, and then made me train him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so...
And then if you complain about it, or you make a big show about it,
you're being insubordinate.
You're being insubordinate. You're too much.
Exactly.
You're too much.
Like and that's basically what we're
if a
talking
man
about.
throws a
Yeah,
hissy
too
fit,
much.
if a man throws a hissy fit, he's justified. But if a woman does, she's too much.
Yeah.
She's overreacting. She's hysterical. She's, women are not allowed to be angry. We're not allowed to feel
Upset about
upset about something. We're not allowed to show those emotions.
We're not allowed to be independent.
No, and not allowed to express
mind.
desires that are other than what they feel is appropriate. You know,
Yeah, we're not allowed to have high expectations.
no. Mm-mm.
Oh, that's the worst too.
Oh, yeah.
You
Yeah,
are being too much.
Yes. Yeah, if you
You're
have
asking for too
expectations,
much,
you're
yeah.
asking for too much. Yeah.
Yeah, you come in and you have high expectations, whether it's not just at work, but like
In personal relationships.
in personal relationships. Like if you go into a relationship and you have high expectations, if you're too independent, if you're too passionate about something,
Mm-hmm.
you're too much.
Yeah.
And definitely, like in my past, when I have been dating and everything, when I've dated in the past, like that is something that I've come across a lot. Being too much,
Mm-hmm.
being too independent,
Yeah.
because men want
They want you
somebody to
take care of.
rescue,
Yeah, they
somebody
want-
to
yeah.
take care of.
Yeah. I agree. And this is a problem I am going to be facing at, I'm not quite yet,
Yeah.
because I'm not stepping out into that world of dating again yet, but
Mhm.
I don't imagine I will go forever without,
Yeah.
I'm only 60 years old, so I'm
Yeah.
only 60 years
my
old. so-
granny got remarried in the nursing home.
Right?
Like, if you think that you're too old, you're not too old. She
You're
was
not. No.
85 and she got remarried to a 96-year-old man.
Oh, that's sweet.
I know.
Had a whole nursing home wedding and everything.
Oh, that's awesome. I think love is ageless. So,
yeah.
but like I said, this is one of my fears about stepping into that world of
Mhm.
being a single person again, is that I will be labeled as too much because I am loud, I'm boisterous, I'm opinionated, I know what I want out of life. I'm coming to terms with being alone and taking care of myself. And I don't necessarily want to be alone, but I don't necessarily need
Yeah.
someone either. And so I don't want to wind up being labeled as being too much or, yeah.
I think that and I definitely went through those growing pains with Jason when we first started dating. That one of the is that, I guess it was quite obvious that I was independent, and I could tell that that's kind of what he wanted was somebody to take care of, because
Mhm.
his last relationship before, he did everything.
Mhm.
But I mean, I guess my last relationship before with my ex-husband, I did everything.
Mhm.
So it was kind of we both kind of clashed at first, because we both were used to doing everything, and we weren't used to being an equal partnership like
Mhm.
we are
Mhm.
now. So it definitely, I want to say probably took a couple of years
Right.
for us to get in the groove. And now, if you can believe it, it's been almost 4 years
Wow.
since we first, it's been 4 years since we first met.
Mhm.
So but in a few months, it's going to be 4 years since we first started dating.
Wow.
If you can, yeah, which means that we started this podcast right after Jason and I started dating.
Yeah.
So maybe Jason and I weren't even official yet, probably, or we started this podcast right before I met Jason, something like that.
Wow.
But that's kind of crazy that it's been
Yeah.
4 years almost since we started this podcast.
Right. Well, it has been 4 years. 'Cause
Yeah.
we're in season 5 now. So,
Yeah.
Oh,
wow.
well, yeah. Kind of crazy.
I know it is. It's really crazy.
a-
But you're talking about your relationship with Jason and how, how it differed from your relationship with your ex.
Yeah.
And I say, I think mine will be, any future relationships I have will be very different as well, because Mark was, I was kind of independent when Mark and I first dated, but he was also a rescuer, and he took care of me. I mean, his love language was gifts.
Yeah.
And so he gave me things. He bought things for me all the time. And, I don't think I will be in that position in the future, because I'm more self-made than that now, if that makes sense. I don't need somebody to take care of me, and I don't think it'll be the same. I think it's going to be challenging, but it will be very different, I think. So, Kristen, on the other hand, has always been a take care of herself kind of person.
Yeah. Definitely.
She doesn't even want mom and dad taken care of her.
I know, and it's bit me in the butt lots of times. I don't like to ask for help.
Oh, no, me neither.
yeah.
No, you and I are very similar that way.
And I mean, sometimes that's a little too much, because it has reverse effects when you're trying to be so independent that you're unwilling to ask for help.
Or are unwilling to accept help when it's offered. Also,
Yeah.
that one's bit me in the butt.
Well, yeah,
so.
that was the hardest part when I was going through my divorce, was accepting help from y'all, like help from other people. It was just so hard.
Yeah, I think that stems from me. I know we had talked about the Enneagram quiz. I'm an achiever,
right,
and it's a status thing for me. So, to be able to say I did this on my own means more to me than if I needed help or I had to climb on the back of other people.
Right.
Yeah.
So for
I
me,
understand
that's
that.
the ultimate achievement, is to achieve something on my own.
Right.
And it makes it hard. And I think that also maybe some people see me as like, I don't know, like a go-getter. Like some people don't like that.
Right. A lot of times people think that is a woman who's too much.
Yeah.
Someone who has too much ambition.
Too many goals.
And other
too many goals,
women are
ambition.
like, all of this, like, this isn't just men.
Oh,
that,
yeah.
like, where the too much. Other women think the same way about women. Like, if a woman is too grandiose or too loud, too much of a go-getter.
Spends too much time on her career instead of her family or whatever. Or maybe even a woman who's really in tune with her family and totally the stay-at-home mom who bakes all the cookies and is on the PTA and all that. A lot of times she gets called
too much. Yeah.
So, because she's doing more than the other women do. And I really don't understand calling other women out for their choices or their way of supporting their family or whatever, because
well, that's one thing that women have problem with each other.
Yeah.
Is that I think I've probably been victimized by other women way more than by men.
There was a time when I actually preferred working in an office with a bunch of men rather than work in an office with women, because
it can be toxic.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, yeah, working with women is
absolutely. Yeah.
I think we've talked about this too on the podcast before.
Oh, I'm sure we did. I don't know where, but yeah. It's hard. It's really hard.
I think that it has caused some problems in my past relationships too.
Okay.
Romantic relationships, because I'm bossy.
Yes.
And maybe because I get in my mind like what I want achieved. And I think that there's two problems. So those people weren't on the same page as me.
Yes.
They didn't have the same goals as me.
Right.
And so I was still trying to make my goal work, right? So I'm trying to put like a square in a round hole.
Yeah.
So if I want what I want, because I'm going to get what I want, I will be bossy.
Mm-hmm.
And that makes it hard in a relationship. It also can be hard with friends too, because then if your friend's not willing to compromise, then it can make your relationship a little bit hard.
Yeah.
When you're a
Yeah.
little
Yeah.
too domineering of what the expectations are, or what you're going
Right.
to do, or where we're going to go, or
Uh-huh.
yeah.
Well, like friends like sometimes get jealous even. I don't want to say jealous, but just like of like if you have things going on in your life and then that friend doesn't have things going on,
Mm-hmm.
then they want to like pull you back kind
Yeah,
of like
right.
especially, you know, if you have like a good job and everything, sometimes they go and want to diminish that for you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just like it's just like a way women treat each other for some
Yeah.
reason.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tearing people down.
Yeah.
I think some of that was initially instigated by men. They talk about this, how men set women against each other to compete against each other for the attention of men.
True, very true.
And I mean, this is like going back in history, for long periods of time. And I think we just haven't gotten ourselves out of that toxic pattern. And we need to remember to support each other and not beat each other down.
Yeah.
But Kristen was talking about that whole thing about having expectations and trying to, that I think that sometimes is one of the things that gets me in trouble too, because I'm an Enneagram 1, which is the perfectionist, and I have expectations, and I will often push, pull, and bully to get things to work the way I want them to, the way I visualize it, or the way that I see is right, and sometimes that rubs people the wrong way.
Yeah.
And it's not because I'm trying to tell them that their way is wrong. It's just I have this vision of what will work, and I can envision it. I don't know how to explain it. It's just I have this expectation and I want it to be this way, and sometimes it's hard to make that happen. And sometimes I push a little hard to get it there. So I'm learning. After doing the Enneagram and learning that that's why I do things, it's a little easier to tell myself, when I catch myself doing that, to say, "Woo, stop there. Why do you have this expectation?"
Right.
So I can, dial myself back a little bit, but at the same time, I don't want to censor myself. I want to
Right.
be who I am, and who I am is this person who has great ideas, and I say they're great. Maybe you don't think they're so great, but I think they're great, and I want to share them. And so, if I'm sometimes pushy, is that being too much?
I must have got that from you.
Probably. I mean,
Well-
I've probably modeled that for you your whole life because, I don't know.
The first step is admitting.
Right.
Well, like I say, life is a learning process, and the more I learn about myself, the more I recognize those patterns, and I think I've evolved quite a bit over the last few years as I came to recognize living in the moment, living in the present, being in the now. Some of those things have helped with that, because if you're living in the now, then you can't have too many expectations about what's going to happen in the future, right?
Yes.
So
I've rubbed off on you a little bit. Because that's all I live in is the now. Who cares about the future?
No, you are not
think
living
it's
in the now. You
Going
live in
the
the
other
past.
way around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're living in the past because you're always backpedaling, trying to catch up to where you need to be. Yeah.
I wouldn't say that I'm living in the past.
You're just running behind. You're always
I'm
running
behind the
You're
clock.
behind the clock.
Remember?
behind
Yeah.
the clock. That is
Yeah,
the one.
like
Yes.
Luck of the Irish. I'm behind the clock. That was a past episode that we
Yes,
did.
that
by the way.
was.
Actually, you know what? I talked about that in my class the other day with my juniors.
Ah.
We were talking about like people that are always like behind or always have good luck or bad luck, because there was like this concept in one of my students' health classes she asked me about, and I was just like, well, that's kind of like being behind the clock. It's kind of like if you feel like external forces are keeping you back,
Mm-hmm.
which I don't feel like external forces are keeping me back. I'm just like I don't know, I'm like that rabbit in Alice in Wonderland. I'm like, I'm late, and I
Mhm.
feel like I'm always late.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like I'm always moving, I'm always running. I think it's just like the extreme ADHD.
My,
It's like I'm
that
all
can
everywhere,
actually
always.
That can be considered too much also. Because
Yes.
Right. Yeah.
some people get a little like worked up about people who are running late or
Yes. Yes.
coming in all blustered because
Yes. I
they're
have a friend
running from one
who's
thing to the other.
constantly telling me that I do too much.
Mhm.
I do too much and I need to quit doing so much. And I'm like, I don't want to sit and do nothing.
Yeah,
don't.
I can't. I physically can't.
I can't physically, mentally, emotionally cannot sit and do nothing.
That's why I'm
I
fine
have
with
to
like doing
be-
grad school.
I like
working
being
full-time.
engaged. I like
Yeah.
something that engages my mind and it. I can't even just watch TV and do nothing. I have to be doing something else. And I think that's my ADHD.
Mhm.
I need to have some physical stimulation. I have to have emotional stimulation. I have to have mental stimulation all at the same time. And there cannot be a lapse in thing.
Yeah.
That pause. I know Kristen's word last year was pause. Pause
but
makes
did
me
you pause?
crazy. Pause makes me crazy.
Yeah, I can't. Like if like my students are taking a test or doing something in my class, I feel like it's hard for me to just sit and watch them take the test.
Hmm.
I want to like start cleaning my classroom or something like
Yeah.
that, because
But
I
that's
start getting
distracting
just
to the
like
students.
yeah,
so
I
you
know. So
can't. Yeah.
I have to like force myself to just like either stay in one spot or go to another spot and just kind of like using it as a pretense to check if they're cheating or not,
Mhm.
just so I can move around, because and like the STAR testing, the state testing days are the absolute worst,
Right.
because I want to be doing like 4 different things, but I have to like quote unquote actively monitor the students.
Hmm.
And that's like at home, like it's hard for me to just like sit and watch TV. I'm working a crossword puzzle. I'm doing a puzzle, playing a game on my phone.
Yeah.
Something like 2 things, 3 things at once always.
That's when I edit the podcast, I sit here and I usually either have a craft or something
Mhm.
to do while I'm editing the podcast, because I can't just sit here and listen without doodling or drawing and I can't write a blog while I'm listening, because I can't listen and write at the same
Yeah.
time. So it has to be something mindless. I did last year, over the course of several weeks, worked on a mandala. I drew a mandala. And I just worked on it a little bit at a time while I listened to the podcast, because that was kind of meditative and mindless.
Mhm.
And I could do that while I edited. But there's only so many things I can do. I can't work on my computer because I'm using my computer to edit. I can't play games on my phone because that would draw my attention away
Yeah.
because I have to actively listen when I'm editing. And so it's, it's challenging. It's really challenging.
Yeah. Being ADHD is
right?
Sucks. It sucks.
What about some of the other things that are too much that we may think about ourselves and maybe not other people tell us that we're too much, but societal norms have made us think that we're too much, like being too masculine or too feminine
or too needy. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've felt maybe not too feminine, but
Oh
Yeah,
man,
but,
I've never felt feminine ever.
Yeah, I've often felt like, wow, I'm way more masculine than I probably am supposed to be. And
yeah, never.
and I feel like it's like a battle because I'm just kind of like, I'm a neutral person. I feel
Yeah.
like I'm neutral. But because I'm not more feminine, I'm too much masculine, right? And I don't mean just like the way I dress or the way I look, but just,
Your mentality, your
Yeah.
go-getter attitude.
exactly. And just the fact that I'm not like, oh my god, I need nails and nail polish and makeups and
Yeah.
I like some of the girly stuff, but don't catch me wearing like high heels and dresses and stuff,
Well,
and
yeah, I mean, I like those things and I
Yeah.
like high heels and dresses and all that, but I physically can't wear them. So,
well, and I think like sometimes because I am just a little more on a neutral side, that people misconstrue who I am or they make judgments about who I am.
Oh man, yeah, I've been
yeah.
called lesbian so many times in my life because I don't dress like ultra feminine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And I think that some people like worry about that,
yeah.
no matter what your gender is.
I know people, that worry about being too masculine, being too tall or not dressing femininely or whatever. And
Well, yeah, and it's a natural assumption that people make, sadly enough, like if a guy is dressed more feminine, then, oh, he must be gay.
Yeah.
Or if a guy likes fashion or cooking, he must be gay.
or he's a dancer,
yeah.
or he's a hairstylist, or and women who
Work
are
on cars.
Women
who work on cars.
Yeah.
Or
drive
just too
trucks.
masculine.
Yeah.
Or drive trucks, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I agree. And just like I was talking about in the earlier on in this podcast when I was talking about women, we make judgments about women who choose to be the breadwinner of their family and they're tied to a job, to their career, while the husband is the one taking care of the children or whatever. And we make judgments about them, about, their position, their situation in their marriage, their, all of those things. And
I already told Jason he was going to be a stay-at-home dad, whether he liked it or not.
Well, he's the cook, so right?
Right? See, he can be a stay-at-home dad.
I'd have him stay home and cook for me. Mark was always going to, when he retired, he was going to stay home and do all the cooking and everything. And I was looking forward to that really hard so that I didn't have to cook anymore.
I feel that, like, yeah.
Yeah.
It's nice having a chef as a husband.
I
I
bet.
bet.
Well, I mean,
just
Mark
made me gain
Mark
weight.
pretty much. Mark could have been a chef too if he had chosen that field. So, yeah.
Yeah.
So I got another one for you.
Mm-hmm.
Too fat.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Oh yeah, like that is another definition of too much as far as like taking up too much space.
Right.
Women shouldn't take up too much space.
And they see you at the Chick-fil-A getting your salad or whatever, and they're like, you should be skipping that meal.
But do people actually say that, or is that what your head thinks people say?
I think there's a little of both. I think there's a little of both.
Yeah.
I
I
do.
mean, I grew up with it like
I,
my whole
I grew
life.
up with
You
people
know,
in my family.
should you be eating that? Should you
Mhm.
be wearing
Yes,
that?
you grew up with people in
Should
your
you-
family saying that amongst other people at the table about
Yes,
other people.
about other
and you
people.
grew a complex about it, and now you
Yes.
hear it in your head.
Yes.
Exactly. And you
Because
think
what
other
you
people
hear-
are saying that about you, but really it's your family that says that about other people.
Right. But they're not
It
they're
was
not
said
alone in
directly
that.
to
I
me.
know.
They are
on
not
mine.
alone in that. There's a lot of people, and I know this because there's a lot of people who
Yeah.
have that same fear, and they have that same. I mean, you see
Yeah.
TV shows about it all the time, where the overweight woman is being judged by all the people in the restaurant for what she's eating, and it's like. Or judging her for working out. And it's like, yeah, it's about time you started working out. Well, maybe she's been working out for years now. You don't know.
Well, yeah, you don't know if she has a health condition or
Exactly.
if she has a thyroid problem or edema or anything
my
like that.
sister had a
PCOS?
my sister had a kidney transplant, and as a result of that kidney transplant, she gained quite a bit of weight. In fact, her transplant doctor told her that the steroids would make her look like a lemon with toothpicks sticking out for arms and legs. And she basically did. And I know people judged her for her weight. I mean, she was so heavy that she actually had a crush injury in one of her feet. Her weight caused her bones to be crushed. And she had to have her foot completely reconstructed because of it. And then she was in a wheelchair for a long time.
That
and I
happened to
know
my mom too.
people, judged her on that, but they had no idea what got her to that point. And it wasn't really overeating. It was the medications that she was on. Her doctor told her this would happen. We knew it was going to be hard for her to lose weight. She did lose quite a bit of weight before she passed away, but she was actually very, very thin for her body type before she had that kidney transplant. It's just that procedure, that all the other illnesses that she was dealing with, the medications, caused her to gain all this weight. And that's why I say I hate it when people look at someone and judge that they're working out or judge what they're eating or whatever, because you just don't even know.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
You have no idea. And we as a society tend to say they're too much.
And as someone that has been like overweight her whole life and not wanting to go to doctor's office for being judged by the doctors.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so funny because like I've always been perfectly healthy.
Mm-hmm.
Knock on wood. And it always has perplexed doctors about how healthy I am.
Mm-hmm.
Even though I'm overweight.
Yeah.
And and like doctors used to like throw things at me like when you become diabetic. And I said like the doctor that said that to me, I said, "Why are you saying when I become diabetic? I have never been close to being diabetic. I know both of my parents were diabetic, but you're like sitting here putting that on me that I'm just naturally going to become diabetic."
Mm-hmm.
I have taken great pains throughout my life to make sure to run as far away from that as possible because both of my parents are diabetic.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I know it might eventually catch up to me given that both of my parents were, but you just don't naturally assume just because someone is a certain weight that they're diabetic.
Right. Right.
Or that they're lazy. Or that all they eat is hamburgers and french fries.
Right. Yeah.
Because I couldn't even tell you the last time I had a hamburger or french fries.
Right.
Okay, so, I talked about, like, work and stuff like that in instances. Like, where I have been like deemed too much or like have not gotten paid for like a certain thing. Have y'all had any instances like that in your
What
past?
what about women who are demanding? I mean, they're like I'm trying to find a good way to make an example. Like um women who women who have like certain expectations, and they may be like a business owner or something, and they're, don't waste my time, don't call on me for this, don't, you know just very exacting,
Hmm.
particularly like boss ladies.
Like girl
That's
bosses.
girl bosses. So
Yeah.
that's what I'm getting at.
Hmm.
I was just trying to find the right words. So yeah, like the girl boss, and a lot of times girl bosses are treated as though they are too much because they demand so much and they want this and they want that, and it's
Even by other women, they are.
yeah. And if they were a man asking for those same things, would we say that they were too much?
Well, no, none of these things. Like going back on the weight thing, like men are never like criticized for being too heavy.
Right.
Like in all the sitcoms, it's like the fat
The
guy
the
and
dad is
the
always heavy
skinny
set.
wife. Yeah.
Yes, always, always. Yeah.
But yeah, no. If a man was um too demanding in a workplace, no, they wouldn't say that he was too much.
No.
Well, I mean nowadays.
Well,
He
it
might get
depends on what it
saying that
was,
he
because
was
he might get
sexually
called out
harassed.
for sexual harassment.
I
but
was about to say,
but-
yeah, like,
Yeah.
but
Me-
we're not talking about being too much
Inappropriate.
inappropriately like that. We're just talking about, you need to have this on my desk by this time, and you need to make sure you're doing your job.
Oh, like the Devil Wears Prada lady.
yes,
yeah,
yes, exactly. That is a woman who is, quote unquote, too much. But is she really too much? She is a woman who's in an industry, like that one. I mean, it's a very
Well,
demanding
no.
industry, and you have to
yeah. If she wasn't the way she was, nothing would have gotten done.
exactly.
Like, and that's a problem. I think, like nowadays, which really doesn't have anything to do with women there too much, is that like people shy away from demanding bosses, or they're afraid to demand too much because people get too sensitive. But if there's nobody to demand, then workplaces just kind of crumble. Like,
Right.
you have to have a
Well,
boss. You
and
have to
that's-
have rules.
That's what I was trying to get at, because one of the problems that I have is I'm afraid of being labeled as asking for too much. And so, like, when I've done it both ways. We've talked about on here before, I'm a travel agent. I put together group cruises is one of my favorite things to do. And I started out by doing scrapbooking cruises and craft cruises. So I'll put this group together. I'll have usually 2 or 3 instructors that are teaching classes. Sometimes I'm one of the instructors also. And we'll go on a cruise, and we'll teach all of the participants that come with us these crafts, right? So I started out being really easygoing, just let things go. And I had people who were professional craft instructors show up for my cruises without the supplies to teach their course. They just decided not enough people were signed up for that course, so they weren't going to teach it. I had people who just kind of half taught. I had all kinds of things like that go on. And so then I started getting a little more particular. So I started making contracts. Up until then, everything was, just handshake
yeah,
with
loosey
friends,
goosey. Yeah.
the other people that I worked with. So after that, I started making contracts. Well, then I got labeled as asking for too much because I had these contracts and I want things to work like this and this is how I want it to be. And, you know,
Well, if you're going to get hired to teach a class, you should teach a class. You shouldn't
exactly.
like that's common decency, common sense. If somebody signs up to take your class, you should teach your class.
Exactly. And you know, I had expectations with these people. You know, we have to have leadership meetings every once in a while. And, you know, I'm okay meeting by Zoom if you live in another town, but we need to be there. We need to do this. We need to do that. We all have our parts to play. And then you know, it was like, you're demanding too much. You're demanding too much. I can't be there. I can't do this. Or they just wouldn't show up. And it's too late to hire somebody else, you know? And there, you know, there's like this weird, so I backed off again, you know, okay, I'm not going to ask for too much. We're going to do it this way. Everybody will design their classes and we'll do this little thing where we'll just keep it all real simple and real casual. And we'll have these books that have all of the coursework in it. And it's a self-paced course, right? So the instructors all know how to do the stuff. They're all in the classroom, you know, at different times, but everybody's working at their own pace. Well, then I got called out because it was not serious enough. It wasn't planned enough. It wasn't organized enough, you know, and it's just like this, it's almost this, you can't make them happy thing.
No.
And, yeah, it's just kind of weird.
No one is happy.
No.
Ever.
And you know, I got called out for being, you know, too controlling on it because I had contracts and expected them to, you know, you have to make posts on your Facebook to promote the cruise and you have to come up with this number of classes and you have to teach that class on this day at this time. And, you know, things like that. And that was just, it's too much. And I'm like, okay, well, you know, I don't know where you find that balance. And
there's always going to be
yeah,
somebody that thinks it's too much or somebody that takes it like a not enough, you know, like every year of teaching, I've always had a parent complain that I don't send home enough homework.
yeah.
And I'm like, don't you want to spend time with your kids? Why should they have like 10 hours of homework per night like I did when I was in school?
Right.
Especially if they get it done during the school. Why do I need to send them extra work?
Right.
And it's just like and I'm always just like, you know, if your child doesn't have homework, it's because they complete all of their work at school.
Yeah.
But there's always one parent that is like, oh, my child must not be doing anything because they don't have enough homework.
Well, so to defend that parent, we were, you know, this new age of not sending homework home was very new to me.
Oh, yeah.
And we went from having
Lots of homework.
Yeah. And I remember lots of homework. And I was traumatized by seeing Steven in kindergarten having to do crazy stuff.
In kindergarten, he had homework. Yeah.
Writing letters in the sand or sugar or whatever.
Yes.
And I'm like, oh, so much, you know,
Crazy.
involved in this stuff.
Maddie's 4 years old and she has homework.
I know. Yeah. And I'm like, what? So when Raina started coming home without homework first couple of weeks of school, I didn't believe her that she didn't have homework. And I was like, you always have homework. Where's your spelling list? You know, and she's like, we don't do that. And I'm like, what? You know, so I was like emailing the teacher and I'm like, can you please enlighten me in this no homework thing? Because I don't believe anybody, you know, because I would have told my mom I did tell my mom I didn't have homework. So
I knew she lied.
I just assumed Raina would do the same. So
Yeah. Lots of kids do. You know.
Yeah. I mean,
so that was me. I emailed all the teachers all the time.
I still like, I teach a college class and there's always homework. But, yeah, my students have homework. They just choose to, they have a lot of time throughout the day, like in other classes or electives and stuff like that they get it done. But it's just, if I assign too much homework, it's not going to get done.
Yeah.
And you can always count on the math teacher to have like about 5 hours of homework per
Math teacher.
night.
What is it with the math teachers?
So
They
I,
always have homework.
why give them like 5 chapters to read in a book if they're gonna spend like the whole night, like I did, until like 2 in the morning doing math homework when I was in school
And then there's my son who does math homework
For
on his
fun.
own.
for
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 fun.
Right.
fun, yeah.
It's not
Yeah.
homework if you're doing it for fun.
This is true. It's a
Right.
hobby.
It's like I play
That was
word
another
games.
episode a few back. But yeah,
Okay.
I'm trying to think of other times when a woman is too much.
I think we covered like
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
the good.
How do we counteract that? That is my question. How do we counteract that? Do we call people out on it when they say we're being too much? Do we point out that error?
Oh, well, I mean, I guess like I have called out people in the past who have said that I was too much, especially like relationships and stuff like that. Cuz I mean, I know I probably am too much, but at the same time, like in my mind sometimes I don't feel like I'm enough,
Right.
So it's just
We-
it's
well,
one of
that-
those.
You know what? So I've been told too many times that I'm too intense. And when you just said that you think you're not enough, that like bing, it like hit me in the side of the head because that's why I'm that way.
Oh yeah.
Cuz you feel like you're
Because
not enough, yeah.
feel like I'm not
Yeah.
enough, and so then I
Overcompensate.
overcompensate by
Yeah.
being too intense.
Well, and
Yeah.
I like sometimes I've been called too much because I am emotional.
Mhm.
We've had this discussion before too, because there are certain things that affect me very profoundly and deeply.
Yeah.
Certain slights that that people visit upon me that hit me in a particular way that triggers my PTSD. Triggers things that I have tried to avoid because they were prominent in my childhood or whatever. And people, I get really emotional about them. I don't think I'm hysterical about them. But I am emotional about them. And I've had people tell me that I shouldn't be emotional about them, that it doesn't mean anything, or that I'm being too much because I react to whatever it was. And
Mhm.
I don't think that's very fair of those people either, to realize just because it's not something that triggers them or that affects them emotionally doesn't mean it doesn't affect somebody else in that way.
Yeah.
And anytime someone is triggered emotionally by something like that, you can't just discount it. It's, you don't know what caused that trigger. You don't know the source of that trauma that it brings up. So unless you understand the depths of that trauma, then you really should not judge how they react to things that are triggered. Does that make sense?
Yes, no, totally. Like I've been told many a times that I've had like too emotional reaction about something, but then again, like at the same time, I feel like there are some things that I don't get emotional enough
I do that too.
about.
I do that too. Yeah. There's I was thinking particularly though of a situation where people were talking about me, not even necessarily behind my back, because it came back to me pretty quickly. And so they were talking about me in a very disrespectful way. and it upset me, and I wanted to defend myself, and I maybe became a little too much trying to defend myself, defend my position because they were talking about me, right? And then other people were telling me, "No, you should just let it slide because it just makes it even worse if you're trying to defend yourself." But I was just having these visions of and remembering these things that happened to me when I was in high school, and there were people talking about me behind my back and spreading rumors that I said some things that I never said, and it caused this whole huge thing, and it was very traumatic for me because some people thought I said certain things and I did not say them, and so I just I don't know. That's one of the things when I feel attacked, I feel like I have to defend myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I was called out for being too much because I kept trying to defend myself. And I don't think people understand that. Does that make sense? I don't know. Yeah, I just
Yeah, no, it does. Like you're trying to prove a point, and you kept on, and then
yeah, and
people said that you were too much because you were trying to prove a point.
To prove
Yeah.
this point. And it's like they can't judge whether you're too much if they don't know why proving that point was so important to me. Does that make that's where I'm like, you can't judge someone for their actions unless you know the reasons behind their actions.
Yeah.
So calling someone too much because they do blah, 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 you really have to understand why they do blah, blah, blah. And then you wouldn't think they were too much. You would understand why they are what they are.
Well, I think that's just like a big problem in society is that people would rather jump to conclusions, and they don't
That's true.
sit back and
Take the time to understand why someone would do something or why something would hurt someone or
yeah.
I agree.
The moral of the story is you're not too much. You're just right.
You're
Exactly.
just right. You're always enough
Mm-hmm.
and not too much.
Don't change
think
for
that,
nobody.
Yeah, don't think that you're too much, and definitely don't think that you're not enough, because you are enough.
Don't
I agree.
dim your light to fit in.
Don't dim to fit in.
Yeah,
That's
don't
it.
dim your light. Yeah, especially towards somebody else who's saying that you're too much.
Yeah, not everybody is right for you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe they're not your tribe.
Exactly. Y'all are my tribe.
I think y'all are my tribe too.
So my tribe, what are we talking about next week?
Next week, we are talking about what it is to be neurodivergent. What is
Oh.
that term that everybody keeps talking about?
Okay. Good deal.
I like it. We can talk about the book Divergent.
Oh,
Not
yeah.
related.
No, yeah.
No.
Actually,
But
it kind of is.
it is.
Kind
It's
of,
a-
Oh,
yeah,
well,
the
she
same
was
kind
a
of
little
concept,
divergent,
yeah.
wasn't
Yeah.
she? Yeah. Yep. Okay. All right. Well, I'm looking forward to it.
Okay. Well, on that note, come back next week. Check out our website. Check out our Facebook group, MMC Chat. And just like and subscribe. Send us to your friends. Give us a comment. Let us know that you're listening, because we want to hear from you, especially any stories that you have about somebody saying that you are too much. Bye, guys.
Bye.